Okay. Good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to IUP's activities to commemorate Constitution Day. We are really happy to have both a live audience and a virtual audience today. After Dr. Driscoll gives a few comments and kicks off the reading by reading the preamble of the Constitution, 100 people are going to read parts of the Constitution. So we're going to start with the preamble, and we're going to go all the way through the body of the Constitution and through all 27 amendments. We've invited, as I said, virtual readers here today. Virtual readers, as you enter the waiting room, if you could put your name in the chat and your phone number, and I will text you your part of the Constitution. So we'll see how this experiment goes, and I am pleased to introduce President Driscoll.
Thank you. There may be no more powerful three words in the history of our country than the ones that open the Constitution of the United States. We, the people. 3 words, 11 letters, one incredible opening statement. Including the amendments, there are 7,591 words in the Constitution, but those 3 short words go a long way in explaining what the document is about and why it is so important. 39 people signed it at the bottom, but it was written to represent all of us. Now, the amendments over the years have been added to enhance the document as our nation evolved. It is not as if the original Constitution was the be-all, end-all document for the United States of America. It originally did not give rights to black people or to women, but eventually those faults were addressed. Some might argue that there are more changes necessary before the Constitution becomes truly inclusive. It was not until 1869 that the 15th Amendment was passed, but it was clear that everyone had a voice. I quote, "The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude." I think that having a voice that needs to be heard is an especially important idea here in 2020, some 233 years after the Constitution was signed. This is an election year, and in 43 days we will go to the polls and do something that is given to us as a right in the Constitution. We, the people, will have our voices heard. We, the people, will have a say in who our leaders are. This is an important part of what it means to be an American. Sadly, there are nations around the globe where the people have little or no say in what happens, but America was created with the Constitution as a backbone that gives the people the right to have their voices heard. We must take that responsibility seriously. We must treat it as a civic duty that we must uphold. Voting is the single most important thing we can do if we want to bring about change. Voting puts it on record where you stand. If you do not like the work of an elected official and think they should be replaced, your vote will say that loudly. If you think an elected official is doing a great job and you want them to stay in office, your vote is an emphatic affirmation of their work. Now, some people say their vote will not affect the outcome of a race, and perhaps in a pure mathematical sense, that might be true. But voting is not about the numbers, it's about the voices. Going to the polls and voting is a way of making your place in history. Your name goes in the ledger, your vote is recorded. Your voice is heard. In 100 years or 200 years or even 500 years, people can look back to November 3rd, 2020 and hear the voices of those Americans who did their civic duty that day. That is a truly an amazing thing, and it is what the United States of America has always stood for, even if the Constitution was not perfect when it was first written and may need further adjustment today. So today, as we read the Constitution aloud so that we can be a part of a living document that was written by the people and for the people, we should do so knowing we will speak our voices on November 3rd. All the words I've just said can be summed up in 3 words: we the people. Let's get started with the reading. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Thank you, Dr.
Article 1, Section 1. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. Section 2. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every 2nd year by the people of the several states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen.
Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed 3/5 of all other persons. This infamous 3/5 clause in the Constitution was eliminated in 1868 by the 14th Amendment.
The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall be law direct. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000, but each state shall have at least 1 representative, and until such enumeration shall be made. The state of New Hampshire shall be entitled to choose 3, Massachusetts 8, Rhode Island and Providence Plantations 1, Connecticut 5, New York 6, New Jersey 4, Pennsylvania 8, Delaware 1, Maryland 6, Virginia 10, North Carolina 5, South Carolina 5, and Georgia 3.
When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. The House of Representatives shall choose their Speaker and other officers, and shall have the sole power of impeachment.
Section 3. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof, for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. Immediately after, they shall be assembled in the consequence of the first election. They shall be divided as equally as there may be 3 classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the 2nd year, the second class at the expiration of the 4th year, and the third class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every 2nd year. And if those vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise during the recesses of the legislature of any state, The executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall be then to fill such vacancies. The 17th Amendment, adopted in 1913, changed this section of the Constitution to permit the direct election of senators.
I'm going to cut in because one of the authors of the Constitution just showed up. So give it up to Benjamin Franklin.
She brings me back from the dead every year to do this. I'm wondering at what point does an old man just get to sleep? Anyway, it's a pleasure to be here and to share this event with you. What we did in Philadelphia in 1787 took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I'm glad to know that now, over 200 years later, that hard work paid off, and we're still keeping a representative democracy. So congratulations to you all, and will you please continue to do it to your best of ability. Thank you, Dr. Torges.
Yay! Woohoo!
No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained to the age of 30 years and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. The Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. The Senate shall choose their other officers and also a President pro tempore in the absence of the Vice President, or when he shall exercise the office of President of the United States.
The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States, but the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law.
Could virtual reader number 9 please read your part of the Constitution?
The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations, except as to the places of choosing senators. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall be on the first Monday in December, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. The 20th Amendment, adopted in 1933, changed the date on which Congress convenes to January 3rd.
Thank you.
Section 5. Each House shall be the judge of the elections, returns and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day, and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members, in such manner and under such penalties as each House may provide. Each House may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and, with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member.
No, you go. Sorry, I got you. It's you.
Section 6. The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their services to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall, in all cases, except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and in going to and returning from the same, and for any speech or debate in either house, they shall not be questioned in any other place.
Will virtual reader number 13 please read?
No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States, which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time. And no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his continuance in office.
Section 7. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it become a law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approve, he shall sign it, but if not, he shall return it with his objections to that House in which it shall have originated, who shall enter the objections at large on their journal and proceed to reconsider it. If after such reconsideration 2/3 of that House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent together with the objections to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered, and if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become a law.
Thank you. Will virtual reader number 15 please read?
But in all such cases, the votes of both houses shall be determined by yeas and nays, and the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered on the journal of each house 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him. The same shall be a law, in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress by their adjournment prevent its return, in which case it shall not be a law.
Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him, or being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives, according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill.
Section 8. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States, but all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. To borrow money on the credit of the United States, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States, to coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix a standard of weights and measures, to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States, to establish post offices and post roads, to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive rights to their respective writings and discoveries.
Post offices, woo!
To constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court to define and punish piracy and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations, to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and mark rules concerning capture of land and water, to raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be no longer than 2 years, to provide and maintain a navy, to make rules of government and regulation of the land and naval forces, provide for the calling forth of the militia, to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrection, and repel invasion, to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such parts of them as may be employed in the services of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training militia according to discipline prescribed by Congress.
Will virtual reader number 19 please read?
To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square as may by cessation of particular states and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and to make laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States, or in any department or officer thereof.
Section 9, the migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation not exceeding $10 for each person. The privilege of writ habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census of enumeration herein before the directed to be taken. Note, the 16th Amendment, adopted in 1913, changed this clause of the Constitution to permit the federal income tax.
No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. No money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law, and a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of Congress, accept of any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state.
We have a situation, I accidentally sent out 2 number 22s. So whichever number 22 begins reading next, you will be number 22, and I will send another one to the other 22.
Section 10. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility.
No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws. And the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress.
Will virtual reader number 24 please read?
That's Rachel.
No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops, or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state, or with a foreign power, or engage in war, unless actually invaded, or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay.
Article 2, Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years and, together with the Vice President, chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector.
I have the honor to be your most obedient servant, Alexander Hamilton, by way of introduction. To continue what Dr. Franklin said, the electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all the persons voted for, and they shall make a list, the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President. If such a number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there be more than one who have such a majority and have equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for president. And if no person have a majority, then from the 5 highest on the list, the said House shall like in manner choose the president. But in choosing the president, the votes shall be taken by states, the representative of each state having 1 vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of the members or members of the 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. In every case, after the choice of the president, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the vice president. But there should remain 2 or more who have equal votes. The Senate shall choose from them by ballot the vice president. The 12th Amendment, adopted in 1804, changed the way the president and vice president are chosen under this section of Article 2. I believe Mr. Burr has something to do with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. Will reader number, what's yours? 28. Actually, will reader number 27 please read?
The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors in the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. No person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of President. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained to the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States.
In case of the removal of the President from office or of his death, resignation, or inability to discharge the powers and duties of the said office, the same shall devolve on the Vice President, and the Congress may by law provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the President and Vice President, declaring what officer shall then act as President, and such officer shall act accordingly until the disability be removed, or a President shall be elected. The 25th Amendment, adopted in 1967, altered the method of presidential succession described in this clause.
Will virtual reader number 29 please read?
The President shall at stated times receive for his services a compensation which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected, and he shall not receive within that period any other emolument for the United States or any of them.
Section 2. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. He may require the opinion, in writing, of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices, and he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment.
He shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provide 2/3 of the senators percent concord. And he shall nominate by and with the advice and consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers, and council judges of the Supreme Court, all of the other officers of the United States whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. The Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in President alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of departments. The President shall have power to fill up all vacancies that have happened during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions, which shall expire at all of their next session.
And this reading is in honor and in memory of Associate Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. He shall come from time to time to give to the Congress information of the State of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses or either of them, and in case of disagreement between them with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all the officers of the United States.
Section 4. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors.
Will virtual reader number 37 please read? 34. 34, thank you. The judicial power of the United States shall be invested in one Supreme Court and such inferior courts as Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior and shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their time in office.
Section 2. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors or other public ministers and consuls, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects. In note, the 11th Amendment, adopted in 1795, changed this section of the Constitution to protect that states against lawsuits in federal courts by citizens of other states or a foreign nation.
In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, and those in which a state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. In all other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as to law and fact, with such exceptions and under such regulations as the Congress shall make. The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crimes shall have been committed. But when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such place or places as the Congress may by law have directed.
Will virtual reader number 37 please read?
Dr. Torges.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can all hear you from the desk.
This is James Madison calling in from Montpelier, and the problem is that the phone, this thing called the phone that you gave me, is the passage is way too small for me to be able to read. So could you tell me where we are? I was trying to find where we are on the.
Oh no, you can make that bigger, Mr. Madison.
Not with my phone, madam. It's. But luckily I have a copy of the Constitution right in front of me. I always carry one around. So if you could
I will tell you exactly where, if you could read.
For those of you who understand or have seen me work with technology, you can understand fully how this has happened. So I have a flip phone.
No, he has 39.
Oh, I have 39?
You're 39.
I couldn't read it. Sorry. Looked like 37 to me. Sorry.
Just read.
I can't read anything. I don't know where I'm supposed to read.
Oh, well, okay. What number are you? 38. Treason, the part that starts with treason.
Okay, got it. Section 3. That's what I thought it said, but I could. All right. Let me just point out that I want to reiterate what President Driscoll in his preamble talking about the Constitution talked about, that what the Founding Fathers were trying to do is create a document that would lead us to a more perfect union. That doesn't mean that it's perfect. And that's why we have an amendment process, and you'll see the amendments coming up. And amendments over the years have been added to address problems and things that we did not see as problems or had not even considered at the time. So the goal was a more perfect union, not a perfect union. So Section 3, treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of 2 witnesses to the same overt act, or on confession in open court. The Congress shall have power to declare the punishment of treason, but no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. Thank you.
Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the, Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the Republic Acts, records, and judicial proceeding of every other state. And the Congress may be general laws prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved and the effort thereof.
Will virtual reader number 39 please read? We're going to skip to you. Go ahead.
No person held to service or labor in one state, under the laws thereof, escaping into another, shall, in consequence of any law or regulation therein, be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up on claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due. As an asterisk, the 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery, eliminated the Fugitive Slave Clause from Article 4 of the Constitution.
Now that you have had an opportunity to hear from Mr. Madison, you may well understand why it took the convention 5 months to do its work. Section 3. New states may be admitted by the Congress into this union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, nor any state be formed by the junction of 2 or more states, or parts of states, without the consent of the legislatures of the states concerned as well as of the Congress. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States. And nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state.
All right. Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence.
Article 5. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or, on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which, in either case, shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of several states.
All debts, contract, and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution
is under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuant thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding.
The senators and representatives before mentioned and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. Article 7, the ratification of the conventions of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states, so ratifying the same. Done in convention by the unanimous consent of the states present the 17th day of September in the year of our Lord 1787, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 12th in witness whereof we have hereunto subscribed our names. George Washington, President and Deputy from Virginia.
New Hampshire, John Langdon, Nicholas Gilman. Massachusetts, Nathaniel Gorham, Rufus King. Connecticut, William Samuel Johnson, Roger Sherman. New York, Alexander Hamilton. New Jersey, William Livingston, David Barely, William Patterson, and Jonathan Dayton. Pennsylvania, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Mifflin, Robert Morris, George Clymer, Thomas Fitzsimmons, Jared Ingersoll, James Wilson, Gov. Morris.
Delaware, George Reed, Gunning Bedford Jr., John Dickinson, Richard Bassett, Jacob Broom. From Maryland, James McHenry, Daniel of St. Thomas Jennifer. I have to say I love his name. Daniel Carroll from Virginia, John Blair, and Mr. James Madison. Took him a while to sign that. Like most Democratic Republicans, they're long on talk and short on practical skills. North Carolina, William Blount. Richard Dobbs Spate, Hugh Williamson. From South Carolina, James Rutledge, Charles Coatsworth Pinckney, and my good friend Charles Pinckney, who will be joining us this evening, Pierce Butler, and from Georgia, William Few and Abraham Baldwin. Attest William Jackson, Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Will virtual reader number 51 please read?
Aaliyah, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Amendments to the Constitution of the United States. The preamble to the Bill of Rights, Congress of the United States, begun and held at the City of New York on Wednesday, the 4th of March, 1789. The conventions of the number of the states, having at the time of their adopting the Constitution expressed a desire in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added. And as extending the ground of public confidence in the government will best ensure that the benefit ends of its institution.
Resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, 2/3 of both houses concurring, that the following articles be proposed to the legislatures of the several states as amendments to the Constitution of the United States. all or any of which articles, when ratified by 3/4 of the said legislatures, to be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the said Constitution, viz.
Thank you, Dr. Franklin. Will virtual reader number 53 please read?
Articles, in addition to, and amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, proposed by Congress and ratified by the legislatures of the several states, pursuant to the 5th article of the original Constitution. Note, the first 10 amendments were ratified December 15, 1791, and form what is known as the Bill of Rights.
Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free speech or the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
The Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Will virtual reader number 56 please read?
No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law.
Amendment 4, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supposed by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger.
Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of limb or life, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Amendment 6. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense.
Will virtual reader number 61 please read?
Amendment 7. In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law.
Amendment 8, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted.
Amendment 9. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people.
Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people.
Will James Madison please read the 11th Amendment? James Madison, will you please unmute yourself?
I have to unmute, sorry. This 21st century technology is beyond my comprehension. Thank you. Article 11. The judicial power of the United States shall not be construed to extend to any suit in law or equity commenced or prosecuted against one of the United States by citizens of another state or by citizens or subjects of any foreign state. That's January 8, 1798. That's all I have. Anything else there?
12th Amendment, passed by Congress on December 9th, 1803, ratified on June 15th, 1804. Note, a portion of Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution was superseded by the 12th Amendment. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for president and vice president, one of whom at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. They shall name in their ballots the person voted for as president, and in distinct ballots the person voted for as vice president. And they shall make distinct lists of all persons voted for as president, and of all persons voted for as vice president, and of the number of votes for each, which lists they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the state of the government of the the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate.
The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and a vote shall be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes for President shall be the President, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if no person have such majority, then from the persons having the highest numbers not exceeding 3 on the list of those voted for as president. The House of Representatives shall choose immediately by ballot the president. But in choosing the president, the vote shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having 1 vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and the majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice.
And if the House of Representatives shall not choose a president whenever the right of choice shall devolve upon them, before the 4th day of March next following, then the vice president shall act as president, as in the case of the death or the constitutional disability of the president.
The person having the greatest number of votes as vice president shall be the vice president, if such number be the majority of the whole number of electors appointed. And if no person have a majority, then from the 2 highest numbers on the list, the Senate shall choose a vice president. A quorum for the purpose shall consist of 2/3 of the whole number of senators, and a majority of the whole number shall be necessary to a choice. but no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of president shall be eligible to that of vice president of the United States.
I am humbled by the opportunity to read the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. The last official act I performed before my death was to submit as president of the Pennsylvania Anti-Slavery Society a petition to the Congress begging that they abolish slavery in these United States. Amendment number 13, passed by Congress January 31, 1865, ratified December 6, 1865. Section 1. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. This amendment superseded a portion of Article 4, Section 2 of the Constitution.
Amendment 14, passed by Congress June 13, 1866, and ratified July 9, 1868. Note, Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution was modified by Section 2 of the 14th Amendment. Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of laws.
Will virtual reader number 72 please read?
Section 2. Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed. But when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors for president and vice president of the United States, representatives in Congress, the executive and judicial officers of the state, or the members of the legislative thereof, is denied to any of the male inhabitants of such state, being 21 years of age and citizens of the United States, or in any way abridged except for participation in rebellion or other crime. The basis of representation therein shall be reduced in the proportion which the number of such male citizens shall bear to the whole number of male citizens 21 years of age in such state. The 26th Amendment lowered the voting age to 18.
Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability.
Thank you for joining us for this Constitution Day. I'd like to introduce virtual speaker number 74.
Section 4. The validity of the public debts of the United States authorized by the law, including debts incurred for payments of possessions and bounties for services in suppressing execution of rebellion, shall not be questioned, but neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid, execution, or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss of the emancipation of any slave, but all such debts, obligations, and claims shall be held illegally and void.
Section 5. The Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article.
And now I'm pleased to announce virtual speaker number 76. And that's okay, because number 77 is right here.
Amendment 16, passed by the Congress on July 2nd, 1909, ratified February 3rd, 1913. Note, Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution was modified by the 16th Amendment. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived, without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration.
Amendment 17. Note, Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution was modified by the 17th Amendment. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. The electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislatures.
Thank you. When vacancies happen in the representation of any state in the Senate, the executive authority of such state shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies, provided that the legislature of any state may empower the executive thereof to make temporary appointments until the people fill the vacancies by election, as the legislature may direct. This amendment shall not be so construed as to affect the election or term of any senator chosen before it becomes valid as part of the Constitution.
'18th Amendment, passed by Congress on December 18, 1917, ratified on January 16, 1919, and repealed by the 21st Amendment on December 5, 1933. Section 1. After 1 year from the ratification of this article, the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors within the importation thereof into, or the exportation thereof from the United States and all territories subject to the jurisdiction thereof for beverage purposes is hereby prohibited. The Congress and several states shall have concurrent power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislatures of several states as provided in the Constitution within 7 years from the date of the submission hereof to the states by the Congress. The 19th Amendment, passed 100 years ago and ratified August 18, 1920. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation.
All right. Amendment 20. Passed by Congress March 2nd of 1932, ratified January 23rd, 1933. Note, Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution was modified by Section 2 of this amendment. In addition, a portion of the 12th Amendment was superseded by Section 3. Section 1. The terms of the President and the Vice President shall end at noon on the 20th day of January, in the terms of Senators and Representatives at noon on the 3rd day of January, of the years in which such terms would have ended if this article had not been ratified, and the terms of their successors shall then begin.
Section 2. The Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meetings shall begin at noon on the 3rd day of January, unless they shall appoint by law a different day.
Section 3. If at the time fixed for the beginning of the term of the president-elect shall have died, the vice president-elect shall become president. If a president shall not have been chosen before the time fixed for the beginning of his term, or if the president-elect shall have failed to qualify, then the vice president-elect shall act as president until a president shall have qualified, and the Congress may by law provide for the case wherein neither a president-elect nor a vice president shall have qualified, declaring who shall then act as president, or the manner in which one who is to act shall be selected, and such person shall act accordingly until a president or vice president shall have qualified. Section 4. The Congress may by law provide for the case of the death of any of the persons from whom the House of Representatives may choose a president, whenever the right of choice shall have devolved upon them, and for the case of the death of any of the persons from whom the Senate may choose a vice president, whenever the right of choice shall have devolved upon them.
Section 5. Sections 1 and 2 shall take effect on the 15th day of October following ratification of this article. Section 6. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislature of 3/4 of the several states within 7 years from the date of its submission. Amendment 21, passed by Congress February 20th, 1933, ratified December 5th, 1933. Section 1. The 18th article of amendment to the Constitution of the United States is hereby repealed. Section 2. The transportation or importation into any state, territory, or possession of the United States for delivery or use therein of intoxicating liquors in violation of the laws thereof is hereby prohibited. Section 3. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by convention in the several states as provided in the Constitution within 7 years from the date of submission thereof to the state by the Congress.
Woohoo! Thank you. Will virtual reader number 88 please read the 22nd Amendment?
Amendment 22, passed by Congress March 21st, 1947, ratified February 27th, 1951. Section 1. No person shall be elected to the office of the President more than twice, and no person who has held the office of President or acted as President for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected President shall be elected to the office of President more than once. But this article shall not apply to any person holding the office of President when this article was proposed by Congress, and shall not prevent any person who may be holding the office of President or acting as President during the term within which this article becomes operative from holding the office of President or acting as President during the remainder of such term.
Section 2. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states within 7 years from the date of its submission to the states by the Congress.
Amendment 23, passed by Congress June 16th, 1960, ratified March 29th, 1961. Section 1. The district constituting the seat of government of the United States shall appoint in such manner as Congress may direct a number of electors of President and Vice President equal to the whole number of senators and representatives in Congress to which the district would be entitled if it were a state, but in no event more than the least populous state. They shall be in addition to those appointed by the states, but they shall be considered for the purposes of election of president and vice president, to be electors appointed by the state, and they shall meet in the district and perform such duties as provided by the 12th Article of Amendment. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation.
The 24th Amendment, passed by Congress on August 27, 1962, ratified on January 23, 1964. Section 1. The right of citizens of the United States to vote in any primary or other election for president or vice president, for electors for president or vice president, or for senator or representative in Congress shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state by reason of failure to pay poll tax or other tax. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. The 25th Amendment, passed by Congress on July 6, 1965, and ratified on February 10, 1967, notes, Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution was affected by the 25th Amendment. Section 1, in case of the removal of the President from office or of his death or resignation, the Vice President shall become President. Section 2, whenever there is a vacancy in the office of Vice President, the President shall nominate a Vice President who shall take office upon confirmation by a majority vote of both houses of Congress. Section 3, whenever the President transmits to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that he is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, and until he transmits them to a written declaration to the contrary, such powers and duties shall be discharged by the Vice President as acting President.
Oh, okay. Section 4. Whenever the President and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or of such other body of Congress may by law provide, transmit the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives the written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the Vice President shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting President.
Thereafter, when the President transmits to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that no inability exists, he shall resume the powers and duties of his office unless the Vice President and the majority of either the principal officers of the executive department or of such other body as Congress may by law provide transmit within 4 days to the President pro tempore of the Senate and Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. Thereupon, Congress shall decide the issue, assembling within 48 hours for that purpose if not in session, if the Congress within 21 days after receipt of the latter written declaration, or if Congress is not in session within 21 days after Congress is required to assemble, determines by 2/3 vote of both houses that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. The Vice President shall continue to discharge the same as acting President. Otherwise, the President shall resume the powers and duties of his office.
You know, there's nothing like the 25th Amendment that just makes your heart go pity-pat. Will James Madison please read for us the 26th Amendment?
I certainly will. All right, Amendment 26, Section 1. The right of citizens of the United States who are 18 years of age or older to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of age. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. just one point before the reading of the final amendment. I am most gratified that the 27th Amendment, which is about to be read, was finally passed and ratified more than 200 years. Oh,
No, you go.
okay. I propose this amendment along with the original 10 that were ratified back in 1791, but it never made it through the process. This one finally did in 1992.
Thank you, Mr. Madison. And I do have the privilege of reading this amendment, which is also the last amendment of the Constitution. Amendment 27. No law varying the compensation for the services of the senators and representatives shall take effect until an election of representatives shall have intervened. Thank you so much to our virtual audience and to our in-person audience. This was a COVID-19 kind of reading, but we did it. And so thank you for helping us commemorate Constitution Day here at IUP. Please join us this evening for a Zoom chat with 4 of the Founding Fathers. Please Zoom in. If you go to the IUP Central Calendar, you can find the Zoom link for that tonight at 6 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us.